Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Unconquered Podcast film session. We're going to take a look at Fuller's defense here and how he constructs it. And I'm going to work from a couple different files here. The first one, I've got some coaches tape of Memphis against Navy from last year. And so this is going to be a different kind of offense, obviously, than what Florida State's going to face most of the time. But this is useful because it does tell you a little bit about how the defense is constructed. And that's actually pretty important. So that tells you a lot about how Fuller works as philosophically. So a couple things to look at here. Notice that when Navy lines up in their base flex bone, that this is the base defense that you're going to get from Fuller, just in general. And this is a 4-3 type personnel, but there are a couple hybrids and then quarters coverage across the front. So 7 guys in the box, and then quarters across the front, and these guys basically become a 9-man box against the run. So you're going to get match coverage here, and you're going to, it's tricky. It's more of a read coverage to this side and match coverage to this side. Their base coverage is going to be a cover 7 using Saban's terminology. Also, same with the terminology that Florida State used last year. But anyway, so essentially what you're gonna get with his defense is he's gonna split everything based on boundary and field. You're not gonna see guys travel, moving around with formation in terms of trying to flip ends or flip tackles based on formation. You're gonna see things move around. You're gonna slide the front as opposed to moving personnel. And there's a couple of reasons to do that. One is that you're just not in a position where the defense or where the offense can line you up one way with, say, formation into the boundary, and then suddenly shift, and then you're moving around or whatever, and then quick snap you before your guys get into place. Your guys know where they're going to be based on the field, and again, because college hashes are wider than the NFL, that makes a lot of sense. That you can just send guys to the boundary, and here's where you're going to be, and about 80% of the plays in college football are from one hash or another rather than from the middle of the field. So when you get to the middle of the field, the boundary guys are going to be on the left generally, and the field guys are going to be on the right. So hold on, I'm flipping that from the offense. It doesn't matter. They have an automatic where they're going to go depending on when it's in the middle of the field. I think as an offensive coach, so sometimes my right and left from defensive side gets turned around and then I get confused. But anyway, so what you have here though is on that defense you have some hybrid players that are built in, because really what they've done as their default, you'll see that they're actually in a 3-4 here, with 2 standing edges and then 2 inside linebackers and 3 interior defensive linemen. Essentially what they've done is they've taken the 3-4 personnel and they've built that out with some hybrids to deal with the spread looks that you're going to see in college football, with the formation variation that you're going to see. And they've said, okay, this guy, who they call the Fox, which is the boundary end, he's going to be more of a defensive end linebacker hybrid. So he's going to be your rush end. He's going to be the quicker guy on your front that's going to stand up more often than not. Sometimes you'll drop him and you keep him as the bigger player on your front, because if you're going to drop this guy, you don't want to drop him to a larger area of the field. If you have the Fox on this side and you drop him in coverage, you don't want a defensive end type player playing in all this space in coverage. But he might be able to do enough over here in a one-on-one where you're getting guys flying to the ball and the boundaries, the extra defender. So that's the logic of having that as your defensive end hybrid to this side of the field. Then you have the boundary safety. And the boundary safety is very much like the old rover in Mickey Andrews' defense, where essentially what Mickey did on his defense is he would use a lot of 8-man fronts, and this rover was a strong safety. Traditionally, the strong safety plays to the strength of the formation. So he goes to the strong side of the formation, and he traditionally was the bigger player who would then fill against the run to that side. What Andrews and people in his school of defense would do is they would put that strong safety position, they would invert their safeties and put the smaller, rangier free safety to the field side of the field. And then the rover would be on the opposite side of the offensive strength, and he would actually be more like an extra weak side linebacker. And the weak side linebacker would be more of a Mike linebacker, and then the Mike linebacker would be a little bit more like a Sam backer / Mike backer hybrid, and then you'd have your Sam linebacker who is almost a safety linebacker hybrid, like your Tommy Polley, right? If you remember going back to 99, 2000, Tommy Polley, 6'5" linebacker who is kind of a safety, about 220 pounds. He was at the Sam position, and then you'd have Derek Gibson or somebody like that at your strong safety position, which was not really a strong safety because it was flipped to the other side on the weak side of the offense to be more of a run player. And he often would be a guy that would be fast enough to play over the top in pass coverage, but you wouldn't be getting him as much in man-to-man coverage. If, say, you line up a slot out here, you don't want that guy in single coverage. You want that guy playing a zone and oftentimes a robber role, playing this middle, intermediate middle, while you drop the free safety from here to the deep middle and you play man coverage on the outside. That was Florida State's traditional coverage under Mickey Andrews. Man coverage on the outside, press man coverage on the outside, drop the free safety, play the rover right in the middle of the field, take away that middle and let that guy rob and rove a little bit here, and then against the run, that guy comes downhill hard. So that's pretty much traditional Florida State defense, and there's a lot of similarities personnel-wise with what you're getting here with Fuller. So you're going to get that rush end, you're going to get the boundary safety, who they call the buck, and that's where you're getting Jaden Lars-Woodby, for example, this year. And that's really almost a linebacker-safety hybrid. That's going to be your bigger safety. It's going to be a heady player who's basically going to be able to come in and fill against the run in a lot of situations. This is also going to be a blitz roll at times here from the boundary side, and that's when you're going to see this guy sink to the middle of the field and try to take away some of those deep shots. So you're going to see some fire zone where, for example, one blitz that Fuller likes to do is you'll split the defensive tackles. He'll go to the B gap here. He'll go to the B gap here. He'll go A gap. He'll go A gap, and you're going to get two guys through the A gaps, and you're going to get a lot of pressure from the interior from your quicker guys, and they'll try to trigger that late. He'll kind of run through the tracks and do that with good timing, and you're going to get pressure on the quarterback. So those are two of your hybrids. The other hybrid is this guy, and he's your Sam backer. That guy is more of a coverage backer because he's playing in space a bunch, and so he's going to drop off a bunch. But again, you're thinking about this from the standpoint of each of these guys is actually more of an outside linebacker because it's more like a 3-4 in terms of how you're thinking about the personnel. It's just that this guy is more of a safety backer than he is a coverage backer than he is a rush backer. That's all you're getting. And then you have your two inside linebackers. And again, this is just like a 3-4 where you're getting those two guys as your two interchangeable almost inside backers. So that's what you're getting in Fuller's defense. And you can see it lined up here against a team that's not spreading you, and you're going to get that look because that's their base. Now, as soon as you get a team that spreads you, this guy is going to come out of the box and he's going to play almost like a traditional strong safety role. And then this guy is going to be more often than not an extra rush guy, though he'll drop at times. And now you have essentially a 4-2-5 with a hybrid on the edge. And then this guy here as the outside guy, more often than not against spread looks, instead of using a traditional defensive tackle at that spot, that's where you line up more of a traditional 4-3 defensive end. So he becomes more of a true end than what you're going to see in most 3-4 looks. So in that sense, it's like a 3-3-5 against most teams, with this guy as a kind of a big safety hybrid in many cases as your base personnel. And then you've got two defensive tackles. So it's almost like 4-3 personnel at the defensive tackle positions, at the defensive line positions. But that outside guy is going to be your 4-3 defensive end in this defense. So it's hybridizing a lot of features from a lot of different defensive looks in terms of personnel, but the personality of it is as a 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5 in terms of how they actually scheme it. because a lot of 4-3 or a lot of 3-4 defenses, these are three big players. You're going to see that from last year's tight formations from Florida State, where you would have, say, Durden as the edge player here, Cooper here, and Marvin Wilson here. And you don't have a true rush guy at this spot. Well, what they're doing this year is they're putting Kane Doe at that spot, which is something I really wanted them to do last year. And then they're just rotating these guys as though they're true 4-3 defensive ends. And you're essentially getting the benefits of the designated pass rusher from this spot, while you're getting the benefits of the rush stuff from this spot, while still being able to use this guy as essentially a 3-4 piece against the run. So there's a lot of things I like about what they're doing structurally here. And that also explains why, by the way, they tend to rotate in terms of their base formation. They actually do this differently than most 4-3 teams. So instead of using a lot of 4-3 teams, this guy is going to play in here, and you're going to have the 3 technique, the guy who's going to play between the guard and the center. He's going to play to the field side, and the end is going to play outside the tackle to the field side. And then you're going to have the 1 technique in between the center and the guard to the boundary side, and then the edge here is going to play again outside the tackle, and then you're going to have backer in the B gap between the center or between the guard and the tackle, and then this backer is going to have the A gap. They flip that. They slide everything over so that they're actually heavy to the boundary, and that allows them, in terms of what they're doing coverage-wise as a 4-2-5 team, to use this guy a little more flexibly out here, and to use more of your quarters coverage stuff as support to the field side on the field side runs. So the backers are going to rotate over. They're going to play a little more to the field. The defensive line is going to play a little more to the boundary. So that's going to be their default. And again, that's because of the kind of odd front DNA that's built into what they're doing in terms of how they're handling their personnel and treating this as almost a 3-3-5, but with this hybrid. And that allows you to do a lot of sliding and play games up front to create some pressure. So let's go ahead and look at how this is actually working defensively against what you've got for Navy. Now, Navy, of course, on the first play runs a reverse. This is not exactly the most encouraging thing to see, but just as a warning, you'll see how this actually works in practice. You'll notice right up front, they are trying to get penetration. A lot of teams that are in these odd front looks, like last year, they're playing these big players up front because they're going to 2-gap this guy. He's going to have the gap on either side of the tackle. He's going to have the gap on either side of the center. He's going to have the gap on either side of the tackle. And they're just going to try to occupy those guys and stop each gap with size. And you're just trying to hold your ground and read where the blocks are going. That's really not what Fuller tends to do. Generally speaking, he's turning at least 2 of the 3 true defensive linemen loose up front. And so you can see that defensive nose tackle is trying to get in the backfield right away. The edge guy also getting upfield. You're seeing these guys trying to get upfield pretty quickly. Now, there might be a 2-gap there. I can't tell from the 3 technique, but that's what they're trying to do. And then, of course, this one is a reverse. So these 2 guys on the edge, they match the step down. They're expecting this to be option other side. They get suckered. This edge guy is supposed to have contain. And now you have a long run from Navy. This is going to happen sometimes against Fuller's defense. It's just the way that it is. But you'll see here, he just steps inside, loses his keys, gets hooked, and there you go. But now you're going to see against more base stuff, you're going to see how this is actually going to go. All right, got a little fumble. That doesn't help us. Here we go. So now against the option, you're going to see these guys play their role, and all the field guys, this is your speed. You get your hybrids. This is your free safety. That's say Travis J. And you notice they're going to be willing to play one-on-one out here. Fuller believes in doing that, and with the personnel they've got at Florida State, they're going to play a ton of one-on-one type looks outside. They're going to be willing to say that guy should be able to stop your guy. If you watch from this angle, you'll again see that these guys are not playing a bunch of two-gap stuff. They're trying to get upfield. You see a little bit of a blitz here off the snap. And we'll flip over pretty quickly to a game that's a different offense here soon. But these looks gave us some things that you're not going to be able to see as well. But we do see a little bit in terms of coverage how they're going to do this here against Navy. This is more of the default look that you're going to see from Fuller. Although, again, against this look from a better team, a lot of times what you're going to see is this Sam is going to apex here. He's going to be outside just a little bit more. And you're going to see more of a rush here. But you're going to see quarters across the board here. So essentially, if these guys all release vertically, it turns into man-to-man up the field for each of these guys. He's got to stay over the top. He's got to stay over the top. He's playing essentially man coverage with outside leverage. But they're going to actually start inside leverage, interestingly. So that allows them to read both guys. This guy's reading number 2. So he's going to read through number 1 to number 2. He's going to take the out route if it comes, but it has to come earlier than that. So if he goes out right away, then essentially the safety is going to take over the top and he's going to jump that. But because they both release upfield off the ball, he now has 2, he has 1. They're playing a little bit off coverage. It's a little too soft given third down. I think with Florida State talent on defense, they'll play more press coverage, particularly to the boundary. And now you're getting a little bit more of an 8-man look, actually almost a 9-man look with these safeties. And what are they trying to do? You're going to see this all year. Aggressive play off the ball from the defensive line. They're trying to make plays in the backfield. This defensive tackle is not just trying to hold this up for the linebackers. He's going for a tackle here. Gets his hand on the leg just a little bit. But it's going to be an aggressive defense, no doubt, in terms of what they're doing up front. Those guys are going to be turned loose a lot. See if we can get to another play that's a better example of what you're going to see. They're going all compressed formations. These aren't useful for our purposes. Here we go. This is a little bit more like what you're going to see from Florida State this year again. This would be Amari Gaynor. This is going to be Janarius Robinson. You're going to see the boundary safety here in the middle playing tight because you've got the nub. So you're going to have outside nub over the top, and he's going to have the backer. So you'll notice once again they're going to bump over with the motion, and now you're going to have what looks to me like it's going to become a robber type look. This is just zero coverage. There's no safety help here. They're really playing the pass disrespectfully here. It is Navy, but again, getting some run plays here that are gouging them a little bit. And this is what you'll see from Georgia Tech this week. Main thing here is that the edge guy has to make sure he doesn't get hooked. Comes inside too easily. And the safety's got to run that alley a little better. He buys the play action here. Buys the read. So safety's got to come down that alley. Boundary has to come down here. So I want to emphasize that Fuller is not going to be a panacea for Florida State. It's not going to solve everything and from day one. There are enough frustrating little things that you see on tape at times that Florida State fans will be frustrated at times, but you're going to see a much better coordinated defense overall and one that does fit the personnel a lot better. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and flip to another game here, because these flex bone looks are not really going to be that helpful for us. Yeah, they're in just straight man here. Bump it across. Yep, that's straight man. Yeah, that's not what they're going to be playing most of the way. So let's go ahead and flip this to another game. We're going to see the game against Tulane. So here's against Tulane's offense. And once again, you're going to see the same personnel, but you notice how different it looks now, where this looks like a standard 4-3 defense, only with a guy with his hand off the ground. And again, their formation up front is into the boundary, and the backers are bumped over. Normally, you're going to see this guy bumped over further, and these two guys are going to be bumped over a little bit differently, but they're going to try to force you to run wide to the boundary, and they'll play some games with you up front to get what they want out of that. So, other thing here, standard coverage look from them. You're going to see the Sam here. You're going to see the corner here, safety here. This is still going to be a quarters version on this side. He's going to read through number 1 to number 2. What that means is if number 1 has a vertical route, he's got him. That's man coverage at that point. If number 1 goes inside and number 2 comes outside, he now has number 2. If number 2 comes outside right away, if he ducks underneath, then he's going to take number 2 and he's going to come over the top for anything that number 1 might have. So pretty simple. Two vertical releases means these guys take the 2 verticals over top of, or stay over top the 2 verticals. And you can see that here. He's going to stay over top. He's going to stay over top. And they actually fooled me here. This is the other thing that Fuller, this is Fuller's calling card, is Fuller really wants, so that's his default. That read to the field is his default look. That's what you're going to see most of the time if they just do everything base, is that cover 7 look. In this case, they don't stay cover 7. This is actually a cover 3. You see the safety turn and run right there. That's cover 3, and they're doing that with a backside safety blitz. And this is all about what Fuller likes to do. As soon as that ball, as he calls it, turns over, but as soon as the snap happens, they go from what looks like it's going to be a middle of the field open coverage, either a cover 2 or a cover 4, and you're going to bet on that being a cover 4 variation like cover 7. They immediately go to a single middle of the field closed coverage, which is a cover 3 variation with a fire zone, an extra rusher rushing 5. Now, Tulane is kind of expecting this, so they're able to get a little bit of a gain here. But that's something Fuller wants to do. He wants the offensive coordinator and the quarterback to look at the pre-snap and be like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be quarters," and then immediately jump out of it after the snap, so that suddenly you're having to make a different read on the fly. Man, and that is a tight camera angle. This is inexcusable. # show the safeties. Gonna have to wait for my computer here a little bit. Okay, here we go. We saw that one already. Let's move forward. Computer's giving me some trouble. I'm going to need to get a new one of these soon. Sorry for this. All right. So once again, you're going to get a very tight camera angle, but again, you're going to see a very similar look off the snap, though this is a different formation. So you're going to see the Sam playing closer to the line of scrimmage to deal with the nub over here, to deal with the H-back. You've got a tighter formation here where it's a tray formation with the H-back There, you got a wide receiver out there as well. And again, they're going to turn those interior guys loose, and that Sam Backer doesn't quite win. He gets held up just long enough that the back can bounce it. Free safety's getting out there. Back's better than him. 2 first downs. One thing I did notice is that Fuller's defenses did tend to start a little bit slowly at Memphis at times, but the adjustments as the game went along were actually quite good. Once again, you see this looks like their default. You're just playing standard quarters. The press man here, and it's not. Blitzing off the line of scrimmage, and that is a terrible effort at tackling. He's right there to make a tackle for loss. This is a good call. Schemed it right, and they're giving up another first down simply because of poor tackling. This is really sloppy play from the defense tackling wise. And expect some of that from Florida State as well, just due to the COVID preseason, no spring, none of that. So, yeah, you're going to see some rough tackling. Now they're having the Fox put his hand down. And again, they're turning these guys loose up front. This time, the defensive end position is just coming through untouched. And this is what you're going to see up front. They're not necessarily going to blitz more, but you're going to see a lot of effort from the guys up front to get through and create penetration. So many fans will probably think they're blitzing more just because you're going to see more guys in the backfield, because that's the effort. Instead of reading at the line of scrimmage, you're trying to get into the backfield and disrupt things. Once again, you got a 5-man rush. That usually means it's some sort of fire zone. At this time, this is actually that's straight man across. They got 6-man rush, actually. This is another one of Fuller's favorites. And he would be rushing, but he peels off because they've got a back on a wheel here, and that's what they're trying to get. That's a really good defense right there. One thing that they're going to do much better is you're going to see a much better job of matching routes underneath from the backers and from the safeties. They're going to be better coached there. That's something that is a big emphasis of Fuller's. The safety has this. This is a mesh route. Safety has that all the way across and handles it well. Looks like cover 4, and it is. And they're trying to run a little smash route to that side. Run out of space. Using the outside, using the boundary as a defender. Managed to hold for a field goal. So I think that's a pretty straightforward approximation, a good idea, a good sense of what you're going to expect from Fuller. We can get into some more of this after the Georgia Tech game, where I'll break down what they're actually doing with Florida State's personnel. But you're going to see a lot of quarters as the base, but it's going to, as soon as the ball's snapped, they're going to jump to lots of other things. They're going to use some zone blitz principles. They're going to do a lot of different things to cause some problems for the defense, just in terms of reads. That's what he likes to do. That's what they're going to do a bunch. We'll go ahead and stop there. This has been the Unconquered Podcast Film Session. Thanks for your support.